Geordies, you beautiful people, welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to be doing a match review because 2 games left of the season, Champions League to play for. We'll go away to Arsenal. We've already done the dirty on Arsenal 3 times this season. So we're going to look at what to expect from Arsenal, how Newcastle can win this game. We're going to do a predicted 11, and then we're just going to talk about Newcastle United and their season in general. And I wanted to start by looking at the league table because it is beautiful viewing for Newcastle United fans. We've already been treated to a trophy, and now we're sitting healthily in 3rd position with Champions League in sight. Now, I'm not saying we're going to guarantee Champions League football because there's a lot of Newcastle fans out there saying that we are guaranteed Champions League football, and I differ from that. I don't think there's any guarantees in football. And if you are a Newcastle fan, you should know this. The amount of times we've been relegated with the sides that we've been relegated with, we shouldn't have. And I kind of feel I'm not putting all my eggs into one basket because I'm not going to say we're definitely getting Champions League football because we could easily lose to Arsenal away and then drop points against Everton at home. It's not out the question is what I'm saying. But hopefully other teams around us drop points as well. And even if we do get beat at Arsenal away, 3 points against Everton will see us in Champions League football. But we're sitting 3rd in the Premier League. We've already won the Carabao Cup, so we went deep in a competition. And just think about where we were, 4 years ago? Now we're sitting and competing for Champions League football. It is just beautiful viewing, beautiful sight for Newcastle United fans. But the thing that gets me the most in this Premier League table, and I'm sure it makes you happy as well, what used to be the benchmark to survive in the Premier League was 40 points. We used to always say, get to 40 points and you're safe in the Premier League. After 36 games, neither Manchester United or Tottenham are yet to hit 40 points. That is absolutely unbelievable. If I'd said that to you even 5 years ago, you wouldn't believe us. But despite that, it just goes to show what a hard Premier League season this has been. And we're sitting healthily in 3rd position. We could even finish 2nd. And a lot of Newcastle fans are predicting that. I differ from that. I don't think we're going to finish 2nd because I'm going to be honest to you guys, and I need to stick with what I believe in, but my predictions are shocking anyways. I've already done a prediction video for every single top 5 hopeful in predicting their last 2 games. So if you want to go and check that out, I'll link it at the end. But going to Arsenal is going to be difficult. I need to be honest. I don't want to say the words, but you know what I mean. Now, we've already done the dirty on Arsenal 3 times this season. Newcastle United 1, Arsenal 0, and then we went to Arsenal, beat them 2-0, and then we've beat them at St. James's Park 2-0. Again, we've scored 5 goals, conceded none, but despite that, I still think Arsenal are favourites in this game. They haven't got Champions League to consider, so they're just going out trying to get 2nd place, trying to finish in that runners-up spot, because if they don't finish in that runners-up spot, they'll be getting cold bottle jobs once again, even though they've already bottled the league. Now, we've already beat them 3 times this season, but this time it feels different for me, I think. I feel like sometimes, psychologically, we've got the upper hand on Arsenal because I think Arsenal, we're their kryptonite. They hate playing Newcastle United, and they get far too emotional when they play us. I don't know whether that's Arteta or the players, but just something happens to Arsenal where they just don't like facing Newcastle United. We live rent-free in their heads. I kind of feel like it's kind of one too many now. We've beat them 3 times this season, and because of low of averages and because Arsenal are a good side, let's not lie about it, eventually they're going to beat us. Now, hopefully, if you offered me a point now, I will take a point. But it'll be interesting to see what Eddie Howe does, decides what to do really, because does he stick with a back 5 or does he revert back to our usual business to a 4-3-3 system? Now, personally, with Joe Linton being injured, I personally think he will stick with a back 5, but it's going to be fascinating to see what he does. Even against Everton at home, will he stick with a back 5 with Joe Linton being injured, or will he go back to our usual business as usual 4-3-3. Now, funnily, if I have a look at the form table, we're sitting 4th from the past 6 games. And if you look at Arsenal, they're sitting 11th. So their form is massively dropped off. Now, it could just be the end of the season. They've got nothing to play for. But honestly, I do believe we can still go there and win. But just because of low of averages, if we hadn't won there 3 times, well, haven't beat Arsenal 3 times this season, I'd really, really fancy us. But I just think, I don't know what it is. I just think we're going to get beat. I need to be honest. I cannot lie. I could sit here and be like, yeah, we're going to win 3-0. Comfortable. How are you, the lads? All that kind of stuff, but I'd just be lying here. I need to be honest. I just think it's going to be 1 too many times against Arsenal. But if you look at the form table going into this game, we're the team in form. We're sitting 4th in the Premier League. Now, the only thing that worries me here is Aston Villa are in form, Man City are in form, Chelsea have got decent form. They're all the teams that we're competing with. So the only team that's really had a big drop off, aside from Arsenal, is Nottingham Forest. So we can't really afford to drop points. Despite me thinking we will get beaten, I don't want to be negative. I just want to be honest. It is going to be tough. So we're going to look at what to expect from Arsenal. We're going to be looking at a few screenshots at the end. When we went Arsenal and won 2-0, what we did great, what we did badly. We're going to check it all out. But what do we expect from Arsenal? Arsenal players are trained to fill specific positions in zones. So Arteta's a mini Pep Guardiola. He likes his players in specific positions. Now, what Arteta does differently, he's quite dynamic. He interchanges the players with fluid movement, and that's what we need to be wary of. Arteta often utilizes half spaces, so he plays 3 in midfield. Arteta sets up like we do, a 4-3-3, and he has 2 deep runners from midfield, utilizing the half spaces. So this is something that Joe Linton's very good at blocking, and that's why I feel like Joe Linton's presence is going to be the biggest miss. So he utilizes the half spaces and he looks for inside forwards to create attacking opportunities. So he gets his wingers to come inside and again utilize those half spaces. He emphasizes on possession, but he's not afraid to go direct and looking to exploit gaps in the opposition's defense and quickly transition into goal scoring opportunities. And I've got screenshots to prove when they did this exactly against Newcastle United when we won their 2-0 in the Carabao Cup. Arsenal scrambled a few chances against us. On a different day, they could have scored. So they did create chances. It's not like we dominated the game. Yes, we were clinical and we come out 2-0 winners, but Arsenal definitely opened us up that day as well. And then defensively, Arsenal have a high press, and the reason they do this is to disrupt the opposition's build-up play, win the ball back in dangerous areas, and therefore they've got a better chance of creating a high-ass goal-scoring opportunity. Arsenal's defence shape is adaptable, shifting between a single pivot to a double pivot in midfield, depending on the opposition's pressing style. Because we press in a man-to-man, and we go like for like 3 in midfield against 3 in midfield, I expect Arsenal to have a defensive shape with a single pivot. And the reason they do that is because they want to force our own midfield backwards. Now, if they push 2 midfielders on, takes away a little bit of our dynamic pressing in that final third. So then they've got more room when they do win the ball back to open up and play. So that's what I expect from Arsenal. Now, how can we counterattack that? Not counterattack. We're going to be talking about counterattacking, but Arsenal often look to play through the half spaces. So we need to restrict those areas. We need to be narrow, compact, and difficult to break down in open spaces. Focus on marking Arsenal's midfield. A lot comes through their midfield. Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard, all get on the ball. Thomas Partey, he's more of a midfield blocker, but when he gets on the ball, he plays forward. So we need to be wary on that and win our midfield battle. What we did greatly at the Emirates and St. James's Park, we won the midfield battle. And I often feel like against big teams, when 2 teams collide, like Newcastle, Arsenal, yes, I'm putting us in the big we're big boys now. We're in that big boy category. We've broken in that top 6. I don't care what anybody says. It's now a top 7. And if you want to include Villa, it's a top 8. So we're in that big boy category. So when big boys collide, it's often won and lost in the midfield. And you win your individual battles, you come out on the game. But Arsenal can be vulnerable to counterattacks. And we're very, 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 very threatening in counterattacks. So be prepared to capitalize on opportunities. Be brave when you're moving bodies forward, but also exploit their defensive shape, because what Arsenal do is they do something similar to what Man City and Chelsea do, where they form a formation when they're attacking. It's not free for all, it's all about formations. And they're quite vulnerable because they want to form a formation when they're defending, and it takes them longer to get in those positions if you overturn the ball. So they can be vulnerable and they do leave you space to exploit. So we need to be brave with our midfield runners and exploit that space. We also need to be alert to set pieces. Arsenal have scored the most goals from dead ball situations in the Premier League this season. So we need to be vigilant, alert, and concentrated on dead ball situations. Now, I want to look at a few images from the game against Arsenal at the Emirates, where we did beat them 2-0. This is what I'm talking about, Arsenal's fluid and quick transition moments. As you can see, picks up the midfield ball. Now, Joe Linton's blocked off by Declan Rice, and I actually believe he did this on purpose, but within 2 passes, Arsenal are in on goal and actually get in on goal, but Martinelli doesn't score. So what it is, he picks up the ball in midfield, provides Trossard. Trossard plays it into Martinelli with 1 touch. This is the problem about pressing. When you're pressing against players with a good speed of thought and good movers around them, then it's dangerous, because Arsenal are quite fluid, and I always say movement kills in football, and this is why. So he picks up the ball in the midfield, plays it into Trossard. Trossard doesn't even take a touch. He plays it first time into Martinelli. Martinelli's in on goal. So this is a danger about playing man-to-man, because if they can find that yard of space to find that pass, then that's a pattern of play built up, and that can happen. Let's just show that again. So he picks up the ball in midfield. We're going to man-to-man press. You can see Tonali pressing. You can see Botman's moved into midfield to press Martinelli. So once he moves into that midfield, he's left space in behind, and Arsenal capitalise on that because it's bang, bang, and then Martinelli's in on goal. So that's the danger. And Arsenal did have a few chances this game. So they just didn't have the shooting boots on. They weren't clinical enough. What we did brilliantly is we were direct. We committed bodies forward, and we had midfield runners in behind. But what I loved about this game, we fought for every ball, winning the first ball, winning the second ball. And that's exactly where our first goal come from. It was a free kick. We delivered in the box. Dan Burn won the first ball. Alexander Isak won the second ball and win on goal, and then he puts it in the top corner. 1-0 Newcastle. Win your first and second balls, win your individual battles, and you can beat Arsenal because you ruffle them up, and they do not like that. And then the same happened for our next goal, and I just needed one screenshot to highlight this because I love this play from Newcastle United. Alexander Isak drops deep to receive the ball, but what happens here is Joe Willock runs in behind. He doesn't receive the ball, but that movement makes the defenders drop 5 yards. What that does is it opens up the space. It opens up the game. So Alexander Isak gives a ball to Jacob Murphy. Jacob Murphy sends a ball back across. And then Anthony Gordon, wide on the left. He arrives in the penalty area, puts it in to make it 2-0. So just movement kills in football. And this is what I'm saying about being brave off the ball. If we get runners in behind Arsenal's defence, we can really cause them trouble, because no defender likes running back to their own goal. No defender likes players with good movement. Newcastle have got good movement because Eddie Howe gives them that license to express himself, to breathe free, and to really push on. We're seeing it a lot with Sandro Tonali in these past 6 games, I would say. He's starting to get deep runners into the penalty area, and players are so difficult to pick up when they're running in behind. So although Willock doesn't get the ball in this sequence, he causes so much danger with his movement, and this is what I'm talking about. Movement kills in football, so we need to win with first ball, with second ball, and we need to have good, intelligent movement and be brave off the ball. Don't just sit compact and let Arsenal just attack. Let's be brave off the ball. Let's really go at Arsenal, because we've beat them there once already this season. We'll beat them again. Although I'm predicting an Arsenal win, and I do apologise about that, we can go there and win. So now it's to predict our starting 11, and this is how I do think both teams will shape up. Okay, guys, I need to be honest. That haircut you just seen a second ago was an illusion. I've just literally cut my hair mid-show. No, to be honest, I recorded this video yesterday, and I woke up today and it looks like Sven Botman won't play. Well, he's a doubt. So I've changed my predicted starting 11, but I have I've said this before. I'm quite good friends with Sven Botman's agent. So I messaged him and I said, look, is he playing? Is he not? And what he said was, he doesn't know. He says that he's going to have a late fitness test and they're going to take it from there. So he might still play, might still not. Anyways, I think our formation will stay the same. And I'm going to tell you why, but I've changed me predicted starting 11 and I put Kraft in there instead of Sven Botman. So this is how I think Arsenal will set up. But Trossard is a doubt as well. But I put him in there anyways. Now, if Trossard doesn't play, what they might do is put Martinelli up front and start Ethan Nwaneri on the right, maybe Saka on the left, or Ethan Nwaneri on the left. They'll do something like that. But it'll be David Raya in goal, Ben White right back, Saliba and Kivio at centre back with Miles Lewis-Skelly at left back, Thomas Partey, Martin Odegaard, Declan Rice, Saka, Martinelli and Trossard. Blah, blah, blah. We don't want to know about Arsenal. We want to talk about Newcastle United. So I went with the same formation as what we played against Chelsea. The reason why I've done that is because Kieran Trippier isn't available either. And I don't think the pace of Kraft can deal with Saka or Martinelli. So playing with wing backs will allow us to defend with 5 pretty much. And I think that's what Eddie Howe will look to do. So it'll be Nick Pope in goal, Kraft. And I actually think Kraft played pretty well when he came on against Chelsea. So maybe he might do a good job. And then Fabian Shaw and Dan Burn as 3 centre-backs. Bruno and Tonali in the middle of the park with Jacob Murphy as a right wing-back. Tino is a left wing-back who have both had incredible seasons. You know what you're going to get from them. Relentless energy. They're going to fight for every ball. They're not going to give up in any situation. So they're 2 good wing-backs. 2 wing-backs that you can really rely on. Saying that, I bet they'll drop an absolute stinker now. And then Harvey Barnes, Anthony Gordon supporting Alexander Isak up front. Now, one thing I will say about Alexander Isak, it's no surprise, and I'm sure I read this somewhere, unless I've made it up in my sleep or something, that he's going to have surgery at the end of the season. It looks like he has been playing with a knock, in my opinion. So if he's not quite at the races and it is backs against the wall for Newcastle United, let's bring on someone like Asula that'll just give us some legs, give us some energy, somebody that'll run the channels, because no centre-back wants players running in behind. If you ask any centre-back, probably in world football, what you hate playing against, and it's players that will run in behind because they don't want to run towards their own goal. That's why movement kills in football, because you don't want players, just hate mobile players. And Alexander Isak is usually mobile, but he has looked a little bit off, in my opinion. So if we are struggling to get the ball up the pitch, struggling to hold up the play in the final third, let's bring on someone like Asula. He's impressed every time he's come on. Right, he's not the most experienced player. He's not yet the finished article, but he can cause a little bit of chaos in a game like this where it might be tight and you just need somebody that will relieve a bit of pressure. Somebody like Asula could actually do that, like youthful exuberance, somebody that will come on the pitch and play with no fear. Look, I understand why Alexander Isak is number 1, because he only needs one opportunity to put the ball in the back of the net. We've seen it time and time again this season, but there is just moments in these last couple of weeks where it's just not clicking for him, if that makes sense. Now, I get it, he's our star boy, and criticizing him, people won't like us criticizing him. I'm not criticizing him. I'm just saying how I feel. And how I feel is sometimes in these last few games, he has looked a little bit off. But I also feel like playing with 3 centre-backs and playing with a back 5 will allow us to protect those inside channels. So it'll give less room to Martin Odegaard, Declan Rice to use those or utilize those inside channels, as well as Saka and Martinelli. So yes, Arsenal are going to come out where they're going to break, they're going to try and play through the lines, but we're compact. And one of our best skill sets is being compact and then really breaking dead quickly. But it's going to be interesting what Eddie Howe does, because he could actually play a back 4, could just play Kraft at right back, Tino at left back, Shaw and Burn at centre back, and then play with Gordon on the left, Murphy on the right, maybe have Joe Willock come in the middle alongside Bruno and Tonali. So actually, Joe Willock's a little bit of a doubt, so that puts me even more thinking that he's going to start with the back 5. But look, we can still go there and win. But with our injuries, it's going to be so difficult. And I kind of feel like with Botman not being available or might not be available, it's just going to make the task even harder. But I want to know your predictions. I've already said my predictions. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Arsenal win. But I want to know your thoughts, even though I don't think Arsenal have won the Premier League in the past 4 games. We're the form team. If this had been at St. James's Park, I would back us all day, every day, and twice on a Sunday. But because it's at Arsenal, that's the only reason I'm slightly doubtful. But I want to hear your thoughts, your predictions in the below. And what do you think? What setup do you think Eddie Howe will use? Let me know in the comments below. But if you've enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And until next time, away the lads.